But that's what the series is.
True, true.
It'll be filled with twists and turns, and not of the M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong variety.
But hopefully it will be something interesting now that, you know, they'll have to go probably a whole different direction with it in some other way, so.
Possibly. There we go.
Unless there's a new antagonist in this one. That will be interesting too.
It's a conspiracy show. There's nothing but antagonists. Everybody's out to get you.
Well, it's a mystery more.
Dang it. I hate it when it's that one arrow that I'm trying to watch out for, and it still hits me. I knew I went the wrong way.
Well, what are you doing? Or, like, as far as games, what you're...
I'm playing lots of games, and frankly, I can't keep track of them all at this point. Because some of them I can get to, and some of them I cannot. I just barely beat Dragon Age Origins, so I was happy about that. So now I can actually move on to...
I say go get the guy with the arrow.
So now I can move on to another BioWare game that I have been looking forward to playing. And it's appropriate because I think the next game is going to be coming out next year. That is Mass Effect 3, the controversial Mass Effect 3. So we'll see if it's as controversial as people claim. Aside from that, I also had to drop a couple of game series. People are not happy about it. But I've kind of cited the reasons that I had to drop them, specifically Dark Souls and Spyro the Dragon, the video game series. But the good news is, for people who were Spyro fans, I have now since talked to both Alex and Andrea, and I think Draken Shadow eventually doing a Spyro run-through might actually be in the cards. I don't know if we'll go too far into the series, because a lot of the games that have come out recently aren't related. Especially like the Skylanders games, they're not really related to the Spyro the Dragon series anymore.
I wouldn't have guessed if they were related to them.
Well, Spyro's in them, but he's basically a mascot for it.
And I don't see any reason going in that one, unless...
I would dare say, like, if we do Spyro, probably we'll tackle the first 3 PS1 games, because that's really what a lot of people consider the Spyro the Dragon series. A couple of people I've seen have good reviews of, like, PS2 generation, but they are few and far between. So I don't know if we actually will go down that direction. But thankfully, we will actually have 2 gamers who love collectathons actually playing.
Yep. Because who doesn't like collectathons?
I do not, apparently, because that's one of the reasons I cited for not completing, or for not going forward with Spyro. It's just not my kind of game. I am a firm believer, like, if you are going to play a game and you have to force yourself because you're afraid it's going to make you bored or whatever, or you don't like the difficulty, if you have to force yourself to play the game, which in my, given what I try and do, you have to do occasionally. But if you have to do it consistently, yeah, it's probably not the thing for you. It's probably not the game for you. There we go. Took care of that. Oh, look, more red rocks. And into the cave we go. Does this mean I have a feeling we're going to get a red rock knack today. Am I wrong about that?
A red rock knack for Moab.
Well, I was going to say like an explosive knack.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. I'm getting better at this. Yeah, you can already tell we're kind of in Moab right now, because, man, red rocks everywhere. And all the secrets that we have come across have been crystals. I really want, like, a part. Yeah! Okay. More crystals! Give me more crystals! And more relics. So let's go ahead and get into the subject of Star Wars, because we are obviously very excited for The Force Awakens. Or am I not speaking for you? Are you not excited for The Force to Awaken, Andrea?
Well, I'm excited for a new Star Wars movie. And how long since it's been since the last one?
The last one was in 2005. So
it's about, what, 10 years?
10 years, yeah.
Wow, feels like forever.
And I'm still kind of worried because, well, this is going to be the first ever Disney acquisition Star Wars movie. And Disney could easily screw this up. Just as much as they could have screwed up the Marvel Universe.
True, but I guess there's one thing that you would have to at least appreciate. They did at least try to get a good majority of the cast back who played in the original.
Not a good majority. They got them all back.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, they could have been worse of just making new people, you know, become like the characters that play, you know, and they're like, well, how come you didn't bring back so-and-so?
Yeah, Harrison Ford's still alive.
Ah, that's better. We can talk again. Those anti-aircraft guns are the ones that shot us down. Knack, I need you to take them out. Otherwise, we're never getting out of here.
I mean, sure, you couldn't probably replace James Earl Jones, you know.
No, you can't.
But what can you do?
James Earl Jones is irreplaceable. If you ever get him in the role, you can't get rid of him.
But didn't he pass away, or is he still?
No, he's still alive.
I wondered.
It was actually an internet joke.
Oh.
That they broadcast his death.
Well, you know,
the same thing happened like 10 years ago when people thought Stan Lee was dead.
True.
So.
It's like you can never tell on who's alive and who's passed away by now, and you're like, oh.
Well, it's just one of those things where it makes you groan at the people on the internet, because people think it's funny to announce that a prominent figure is dead.
Like Christopher Lee?
Well, that's a different case, because he was actually dead.
Yeah.
He was like in his 90s. But, I mean, the difference here is, like, Stan Lee is in his 90s. Like, he could technically kick the bucket at any point, and it would be a sad event.
Yeah.
And so, if you're getting people to be unnecessarily sad, that's really, really low blow. It's not cool.
Maybe the day when that does come, and he actually does one more role and at least a cameo in one more Marvel.
They'll find a way to replace him. I promise. They'll CG him in. I want to point that out to people that are saying like, oh no, that means no more cameos. No, they will find a way to get Stan Lee into the cameo.
But I mean, like, it would be a role that he would be like, show that he dies in some shot.
No, that would be dirty pool.
I know.
That would be like bringing in Jack Kirby just to die in his cameo. And that would not be cool at all.
True.
Like while Stan Lee lives. Because that's a big point on Stan Lee's history.
Yep.
Oh, look. I am blocked off. Oh,
I feel like some of those guys look like they're Shrek.
Well, yeah, they're goblins. Goblins are really related to ogres. See, they have the red rocks and they blow up. I really am wondering if we are going to get a red rock Knack today. Alright, where does this put me? Okay, cool. So I guess the best place to start is, obviously you're excited for the new films. One of the things that people might want to clarify with you is, What are your thoughts on the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy? Like or dislike? Do you like one over the other? My answer is very simple. I am a lover of the original trilogy.
Yeah, because it's old.
No, because it's done right. There's a lot of problems with the prequel trilogy. It's definitely not George Lucas at his best, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I didn't say I hate the prequel, you know.
Well, which do you prefer? The original trilogy or the prequels?
You're asking me.
I know, you don't like that question at being
You're
asked,
asking
but-
me?
Yes, I am asking you.
Maybe I like the prequels.
And the reason being?
Just because of how much technology has really put into it and made it look more
Okay.
really cool.
And your favorite movie of the prequel trilogy?
Number 3.
Revenge of the Sith?
Yep.
Is it just because it completes the story, or...
Just basically lots of action and just watching, you know, Anakin becoming Darth Vader.
Okay.
But I guess if you liked the old trilogy, I kind of like how they put the new features in it a little bit.
So, out of curiosity, of the original trilogy, what is your favorite movie of them?
Probably Return of the Jedi.
And the reason?
I don't know, really.
Well, give it some thought.
Well, probably just mostly. It's just, you know, with Darth Vader kind of becoming more redeemed in his role, but even though he dies,
So you like the completion of the story?
pretty much. Yeah. I mean, A New Hope was okay. And I know a lot of people really liked
Empire
Strikes Back, but
It is considered the best of the trilogies.
I don't know why is that, if it's just because
As
of...
far as film development, it's the best. It's actually got a coherent story from beginning to end. It keeps you engaged from beginning to end.
Maybe it's just because it kind of feels like a Dead Man's Chest for me. Like, it just kind of felt like...
Did it depress you?
I wouldn't say it depressed me, but it felt like you kind of expected a little bit more, you know, action with it or something.
Well, here's the thing, is that it was a middle movie in the trilogy. So it had to do a lot of things, and on top of that, it's not, you know, there's a reason it's called The Empire Strikes Back. It had to actually have the Empire striking back. It had to have the Empire winning a few victories.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of people don't like that. I personally think, as far as filmmaking is concerned, Empire is the superior product, especially given the problems that come with a middle movie. I mean, you've watched the extended stuff for Lord of the Rings, so you know how much of a problem it was to make 2 towers.
Yeah.
Because it's much easier to tell the beginning of a story to the end than trying to do like this whole emphasis on a middle story. Because you have to keep people engaged. You have to keep them wanting to watch. Oh, jeez. Seriously? That was dumb.
I remember when it came out, when I was, you know, around the age that I was able to go see it in the theaters.
Empire?
I think it was the first one.
You were alive in the 70s?
I don't remember. Unless it was a remake, I don't know, like, it was like a...
Yeah, you're talking about the special edition ones. That had, like, the additional footage. And...
No, it wasn't that. Unless, of course, we bought the movie.
Could be.
I'll have to ask my dad.
Okay.
Just because I remember they told us, oh, you may like this because it's got people fighting like lasers with laser swords.
Mm-hmm. It's got people fighting with lasers. Oh, and what's this?
Hey, Doctor. Take a look at this Guardian.
Yes, it's fascinating. The goblins have managed to create a thaumatic interface to the Guardian's neural matrix. He's under their control.
Yeah, that too. But did you happen to notice the giant box of relics he's carrying? You said get big, right? I get my hands on those relics. I'll show you big.
Ah, I love your thinking, Knack. So with that, let's actually go into some of the details here.
Well, hey, you didn't tell what your favorite was.
I am an original trilogy fan. If I were to say a favorite movie of the prequel trilogy, it would be Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and it's because it's the only movie that's actually necessary to tell the story. I watched Attack of the Clones, and I've watched Phantom Menace who knows how many times, and I've come to this conclusion for a long time now.
If you were to say that if the first two didn't exist...
If it was just Episode 3, we'd be fine.
Yeah, but...
Because that's all anybody cared about, was they wanted to actually see him... They wanted to see Anakin Skywalker become Darth Vader.
But they
didn't want to see him win a pod race. They didn't want to see the creation of the clones.
But then you wouldn't know how everything came to be if they didn't do it that way.
What makes you think that? All they wanted to know was how Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader. You see how that happens in Episode 3. We didn't need to see his really, really awkward romance with Padme. I know you appreciate that stuff, Andrea, but from a storytelling perspective, we didn't need to see it.
Well, maybe you think so, but that's not always necessarily true.
Well, that's why we had differing opinions on that. I do not think any of that stuff was necessary. I don't think we needed to know about all the various incidences where Anakin utilized the dark side of the Force. It's fairly obvious that at some point he had, at one point, used the dark side. So we didn't have to have that moment.
Then you would hope you wouldn't have people asking questions on, like, well, how did this occur?
Trust me, nobody was asking that question.
Maybe not now, but later down the road.
It's been 10 years, Andrea, nobody's been asking that question.
You never know.
Okay, then in another 10 years, they can release Episode 1 and 2, and everybody else can think it's crap.
Katrina, when you proposed that we have the Doctor find the key for us, I was more than a little skeptical. But now you say they've found a clue.
Amazing, isn't it? We spent years looking for the key, and they might find it in a matter of days.
Shouldn't we go after them, then?
They're doing so well. Let's have them do the hard work. When they're close to it, then we can swoop in and take it. In the meantime, you'll have a chance to finish a little project here.
All right, evil making evil. All right, we got it. Look, this is just my honest opinion, Andrea. I do not think Episode 1 and 2 were necessary at all. If you wanted to tell that story, you could have easily told it in other mediums. Because in a lot of cases, Phantom Menace drags so long with trying to tell everybody else's... Okay, let me put this perfectly. Whose story were the prequel trilogy supposed to tell?
Pretty much Anakin Skywalker.
How much of Anakin Skywalker's story did they tell?
They told a lot of it.
But they were more focused on telling the story of other characters. And some of them were necessary, and a lot of them weren't. We did not need to know about Jar Jar Binks. Can we both agree on that? We didn't need to know about Jar Jar Binks.
You don't like Jar Jar Binks?
I hate Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar Binks was a kiddie campaign that George Lucas was trying to do to create the next E.T., and it failed horribly. Because it ended up with everybody hating it. Did we need to know the story of... Let's see, where can I actually go into this on this one? Did we need to actually know the story of the one dude who ran the restaurant that Obi-Wan knew, that just so that we could have the CG moment of him pulling up his pants? That was for kiddie humor, and it failed.
They only did it just for entertainment.
That's why George did it. He was trying to cater to a new generation, but at the same time, he was trying too hard. You already had something solid going on with lightsaber fighting. You'll agree to that. So yeah, that's my viewpoint on the prequel trilogy. I think all but Episode 3 are necessary, or are unnecessary. And the original trilogy, I would dare say, my favorite, while I understand people liking Empire Strikes Back for the reasons, and I would agree with it, I tend to be biased towards Return of the Jedi because that was technically the first Star Wars movie I ever saw. And I also tend to be partial towards the original trilogy for the dogfights, and Return of the Jedi had a lot of them, including the final Death Star battle. That was pretty awesome as far as I was concerned. Are we having a moment where I'm being way too critical again?
Which is why I don't like giving opinions.
Well, we're talking Star Wars here.
Yeah, we're talking Star Wars.
So, going into another question, so who is your favorite character of the Star Wars universe? Like, which is the one that you relate to the most?
You go first. How about that?
I'm busy getting killed, so...
Well, I would have to go through the characters and see which one
Luke,
I think.
Han.
You go with those?
No, I'm saying I'm naming out characters for you.
I know. I'm still trying to think who I'd relate best to. But I'm sure you could think of one.
Not off the top of my head. I'm concentrating.
Oh, you're good at being able to concentrate and think.
Well, these guys are especially kicking my butt, so there we go. Oh, come on. Okay, we'll get back to this question in a little bit then.
Oh, you just don't know who you would relate to best.
I would have to think about it, and I'm playing the game.
Here, do you want me to play the game?
I wanted you to answer the question.
Well, why do I always have to answer it first?
Because I'm evil like that.
Ah, so you'd be more like...
Okay, so here, let's go to another one. So, you've played quite a bit of Star Wars games in your life, right?
Not very many.
Well, which ones have you played?
Only, pretty much Shadows of the Empire, and that was mostly it.
Really? You
Yep.
never played, like, Force Unleashed or anything like that? Holy moly.
Well, maybe a little bit, but I haven't played it all the way through.
Okay, well, let me go into let's actually go into the Force Awakens here. So what has you the most excited about Force Awakens? Like, from the trailers that you've seen.
Only one.
Okay, of that one trailer, what had you the most excited?
I was still trying to figure that one out because I can't even decide on how, what am I exactly looking for.
What do you mean, what are you exactly looking for?
Well, basically, I cannot figure out exactly, how am I supposed to interpret what it is,
Well, you're not the only one. I mean, they're keeping really quiet about the plot.
I know, it's very hard. Maybe just seeing Han Solo and Luke Skywalker again.
Assuming we're gonna see Luke. I'm really kind of worried about that right now.
Are you mostly thinking they only brought him back just as a reference?
No. I'm just kind of worried that they've maybe made his role too big, that they actually might have to move him to another part. And I don't want to see that happen because I do want time with Luke. I think he's kind of the biggest draw of the film. We want to know where he's at and what he's trying to do.